Namaskara. Good evening, everybody. Very warm welcome to our satsangs every Thursday, the Spiral of Wisdom. But before we start, may I request Swati to say the school prayer.
Good evening, everyone. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. So before we start, let us all sit straight for a little prayer. The idea is to connect. Today is Guruvara, which is the day of the Guru, Thursday. So let us just connect with our own higher selves so that we get the best out of the satsang. Please sit straight with your back, neck, and head aligned. Take a nice deep breath.
I could not hear you. Sorry.
You're not able to hear me, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Ramesh, you're not
Swati, am I audible? Is it very...
Your audibility is very low.
Swati, am I audible there?
Yes, yes. Your both voices are very clearly audible for me.
Okay.
No issues.
Okay, fine. Maybe it's the connection at your end, Juzer.
So sometime, Ramesh sir, your
Because,
voice is breaking.
It's breaking up, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So I will just speak a little slower in that case. Maybe my connection as well. Okay. So let us all sit straight with the back, neck, and head aligned for a little prayer. Take a nice deep breath and let go. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Let our higher selves, our inner wisdom, guide us so that we get the best out of the satsang today. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Ramesh. I'll be a host for the satsang today. And again, we have with us Mr. Juzer Udaipuri. He has, this is the second time that he is, he's made his presence felt. About a month ago, he was here speaking about Atlantis, which was a very interesting topic. Just a quick introduction. Juzer is a distinguished scholar and advocate with a strong academic and professional background. He holds multiple degrees like BCom, a BA in sociology, and Bachelor of Law, Masters of Law. And he has earned many accolades, including a gold medal there. He's also a solicitor of the Supreme Court of England and Wales, and he's completed a second year of BA through distant education. He additionally holds a diploma in yoga education and is a graduate of the Landmark Forum. Mr. Udaipuri began his career in 1990, completed his articleship at Bhaishankar, Kanga, and Giridhar Lal. And his expertise spans, in fact, he's got a long list of degrees here. So I'll just be a little more brief. His expertise spans across criminal and civil matters. And he particularly specializes in litigation related to money recovery, property, etc. He also has a good command over English, as you will find out, with a strong knowledge of computers. Apart from his legal work, Mr. Udaipuri has actively contributed to community and personal development. He has trained participants in public speaking and personality development of the Yoga Institute and Modi Care network marketing companies. He's a member of Toastmasters and has served as the president of multiple Lions clubs and zone chairman of Lion District. He also writes articles on law for social media and aims to pursue a doctorate in law and sociology, as well as becoming a senior counsel and a distinguished Toastmaster. So we welcome Mr. Juzer for our satsang today. The topic today is another interesting topic. It's about the Stoics, the adorable Stoics, and their simple life lessons for the modern man. Stoics are people who have a great capacity to remain equipoised whether the times are bad or good. So that really is a very powerful lesson for us. Without much more ado, let's over to Mr. Juzer. Over to you, sir. Yes, please.
Yeah. Everybody is requested to please inform if I'm audible and visible. Visible I am, of course. But am I audible? You can send me a thumbs up, or you can just wave saying that, yes, I'm audible, so that I know that I'm there. And I would request you, if it is possible, that if you could switch on your videos, mute your audio, so that at least I have some kind of a reaction coming from the screen and I know that I'm being understood. Otherwise, a blank screen is what I am looking at. Yes, thank you so much, Maitri and Kashmira Irani. If you could just switch on your screen, so I know that I'm talking to human beings. All right, now we will travel maybe 3,000 years back in time. We will travel into the time when the Greeks first came out of the northern mountains of Europe, and they started living, attacking, marauding the settled peoples of the islands surrounding today's Greece and the mainland Greece. And these people who came and settled on the mainland and the islands of Greece, which is also called Attica, are the people that we are going to be discussing today. And these people have left a lasting impact on European rational thinking. And because European rational thinking has been influenced by the Greeks, all over the world, European education has taken Hellenistic thought, rational thought, and that is how today we know about the Stoics and we appreciate what they thought, what they wrote, how they behaved. According to established literature, the Stoics, the word Stoic comes from the word stoa. Stoa means an open place where there are pillars, there is a wall, people sit, they paint, they talk, they discuss. Artists will sculpt statues. So this was an open place, more something like a city center. What would we have a city center today? Maybe in cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, London. Especially in London, I see Leicester Square. And Leicester Square is very much like the old Stoa. People just sit around, paint, talk, chit-chat. So a Stoa is the place where these people used to go and they used to propagate ideas, their own ideas. And the first person to have done that is a man called Zeno. Now, Zeno was the person who first started this idea of talking in the Stoa, and therefore people who started talking in the Stoa were called Stoics. But we'll come to Zeno a little while later. What we'll do is first we'll travel to some of the illustrious thinkers of ancient times, and we'll touch upon them, and then we'll also come to their philosophy. Folks, I must admit that I may not finish this session in one sitting or 1 hour. I am going to break down Stoics and Stoic philosophy into 2 parts. Today, we'll deal with some illustrated Stoics. We have time, we'll touch upon the philosophy. And if we don't have time, we'll deal with the philosophy the next time. So it will be part 1, part 2. Because Stoics is a huge, huge area. And I wouldn't do justice if I finish off in just 1 hour session today from 6:30 to 7:30. Now, Stoics have, as I just said, that Zeno was the first Stoic. But we will deal with Zeno a little later. We will deal with probably the most illustrious of Greek thinkers, and that is Pythagoras. We don't know much about Pythagoras. We only know one. We have a few strands of ideas which have survived the test of time. It is said that Pythagoras' mother went to an oracle. And the oracle, she met a lady who was the oracle giver, and her name was Pythia. Pythia, Pythia, it's a proper noun, you name it the way you want. And this lady said that your son is going to be the most illustrious human person this world has ever seen. And therefore, Pythagoras' mother delivered a baby, and that baby was named Pythagoras after Pythia. Now, again, about the early birth, childhood of Pythagoras, we don't know much. But this much we know is that probably Pythagoras did travel to Egypt. Now, in those times, Egypt was the center of all wisdom learning. Egypt had priests, they had extremely illumined masters, and it is said that Pythagoras, given his serious demeanor, was admitted to the temples of Egypt, and he learned there for a sufficiently long time. After having learnt in Egypt, it is said that Pythagoras traveled to India, and on the banks of the Ganges, he met the yogis, the gymnosophists, the people who were nude, people who had relinquished the world completely. And we'll be visiting this idea of gymnosophists a little later when we also deal with Pirron. Pirron was also another Stoic. So he was also equally influenced by Egypt. Sorry, equally influenced by the gymnosophists of the Ganges Valley of India, the Ganges. Now, when Pythagoras came to India, in our literature, there's a reference to a Yavanacharya. Yavan is basically the Hindi word, the Sanskrit word for Yunan. Yunan is the Persian word for Greece. So Yunan, Yavan means Greece, and he was the Acharya. That means he was a very learned man who came from Greece. So we have a reference to Pythagoras in some of our scriptures. He learned what he had to learn, and then he went back to Greece and he founded a school in Greece. And this school became a very, very famous school in Greece. He founded a school where he admitted students. Obviously, a school need to have students. And it is said that he would admit students only if the students showed a certain level of commitment and seriousness. There is an anecdote. Again, we really don't know much. So let me tell you one thing. What I am telling you is what I have read. Again, the writers of the books that I have read and from whom I have learned, they also have this disclaimer that these are references picked up and collated together, curated together. So the students who used to attend the Pythagoras school were made to sit outside the doors of the school for a couple of days, hungry and thirsty, to see how much commitment they had for learning. And if once they were admitted, then they would be given the education. And there were two kinds of students. They were the acousmatikoi and the mathematikoi. For the first 5 years in the school, you were not supposed to talk. You were supposed to do only whatever work you were given. So brooming and cleaning and dusting and rubbing. So you are not supposed to talk. The reason is that the human mind is jumpy. It's a monkey. So, for everything we have questions. I want to know this. I want to know this. So therefore, the first 5 years, first couple of years, you were not supposed to talk. And you could only ask very elementary questions. After you crossed a certain level, then you were allowed to interact with the senior students who would guide you, would teach you. And then there were tests, not only given by Pythagoras, but the senior students also. Now, Pythagoras' mode of study was the control of the beast within. See, you have to understand one thing, whatever may be the philosopher, whoever may be the philosopher, all scriptures, all philosophers, all thinkers, savants and saints, across civilizations and across cultures, they hold one thing very dear, and that is some amount of moral caliber. You cannot have a student who doesn't have moral caliber. So honesty, ethics, discipline, these are the essentials for any admission to any school where philosophy is being taught. It is unfortunate that today in our times, philosophy is an academic study. But in some of our schools, like the schools that you run or the schools otherwise, there is still a certain amount of gradation that takes place, and unless you have a certain level of moral caliber, you will not be admitted to serious study. So, therefore, the students of Pythagoras were taught simplicity, discipline. There would be a huge spread of food on the table, but you were not supposed to partake in the food. You were supposed to control the beast within. The gluttony, the lust, the avarice, the greed were all supposed to be controlled. So therefore, when it came to sleep, you were supposed to have a heightened level of awareness, maintaining awareness all the time and sleeping to the least. Now what happened is, because of this, the students and the school attained a lot of acclaim. There is one particular anecdote that I must narrate, is that there was one student of Pythagoras who visited another city. Now in those days, we didn't have trains and tram and buses and cars which could just simply zip from city to city. People had to travel for months from crossing from one border to the other. So the student traveled far. And after having traveled far, he reached an inn, a hotel. And there he fell seriously sick. So much so that the innkeeper had to look after him. So the student told the innkeeper that, look here, I don't have money now to pay you, but somebody will pay you on my behalf. You've looked after me. And he made a symbol. And after having made a symbol, he left for the afterlife. The innkeeper, of course, attended to the sick student, and he knew that his money was sunk. I mean, who would come and pay? Just tell me, by today's yardsticks, would somebody pay for somebody else? I mean, not in those times, not in our times, and probably not in the future. Morality is at a high premium in any civilization. But after a couple of months, a student did go to that inn, another student, and he saw the symbol. And he asked the innkeeper, why is this symbol? Without revealing from where is he from. And the innkeeper narrated the whole story. The student took out the money and gave it to the innkeeper and said, I am also from the same school, and I will maintain the dignity, the decorum, the uprightness, the righteousness of the school that I belong. And this is the money I pay you for having attended my friend who is no more. So this is the level of morality that the school generated and engendered. There was one particular prince. He was not admitted to the school of Pythagoras. So after having come to power, he created a rumor that this school is indulging in malpractice. Pythagoras couldn't care less. But what happens is that when you are not in sync with the times, you have to pay a high price. And it said that the people were so misguided that they burnt the school down and they butchered the students. Some may have escaped, and it is said that Pythagoras' daughter could only run away with one page of all his writings, and everything else was lost, and everything else got dissipated. And Plato paid everything that he had after 200 years to purchase that one page of Pythagoras. Now, there's a little more to Pythagoras, but we will not go to the other things as to how he got married and what were the qualities of the students, that is the acousmatikoi and the mathematikoi, because that is not really relevant for our purposes. But the idea that I want to try to establish now, the first idea, and probably the only idea that the Stoics always propagated, is extremely high levels of personal morality. So whether it be honesty, harmony, ethics, discipline, was always something that the Stoics engendered, and that is how people looked at them, and that is what they carried all their lives. The other person whom we give importance in the larger scheme of Stoicism, though who does not really fall into the bracket of Stoics, is Socrates. Socrates Kashmira has raised her hand. Kashmira, is there a question?
No.
Hello, Kashmira, you've raised your hand.
No, I didn't raise my hand.
Okay. The other person that who does not really belong to the Stoic group as experts have created, we have categorized thinkers, is Socrates. Socrates was a man who has become immortal today, only for one reason. Probably people would have forgotten Socrates as just another character in history, but his claim to fame is because of his morality level being so high that even though when he was given a chance to escape Athens, he refused to do so. Socrates was an Athenian. In his younger days, he joined the Athenian army. He was famous, and he became famous because when time came to retreat from the enemy Sparta, it is said that Socrates retreated backwards. That means he did not show his back to the opponents. He showed his front because he said, I will not show my back to the opponent. I will not run away from the battlefield. He was not gainfully employed in any craft, but he had this tendency to ask questions, searching questions. So much so that he became the most famous man in Athens. And it is said that the oracle was consulted, and the oracle said that the wisest man in Athens is Socrates. The wisest man in Greece is Socrates. Socrates was called a gadfly. That means he was an irritating person. He was an irritating guy. He would ask all kinds of questions, searching for clarity. One thing important about him to note is, and I would request you to make notes. Folks, what happens is that these are subjects that you will not be visiting again and again in your life. These are subjects which will come once. I share it, maybe after a year, somebody else will share and give you a different perspective. So I would request you to make notes. So recording is of course there, but written notes obviously helps. So what he used to do is he used to seek clarity. So much so that he developed a small group of people, a band of people, very loyal to him. And Plato was one of them. Antisthenes was another. And there were a few others whom I will be coming to. These all people became the lovers of Socrates. They used to love Socrates for his honesty, his integrity, his clarity, his humility. Socrates says that the only thing worth knowing in this life, in this world, is to know thyself. And he says the more rational you become, the more clearer you become. There is nothing equal to that. So he spurned public life. He spurned earning. He would not indulge in any of the things that would attract you and me, that is position, power, pelf. Nothing attracted him. What attracted him was clarity of mind and rationality. And this is probably the most incredible quality of this man, Socrates, and that is why he's immortal. Every philosopher, every thinker will swear by Socrates that there is no man born today equal to him. Of course, there are various claimants, but this is more like a hyperbole that there is no man born. Of course, there were others as well who were equally good, who were equally rational. So Socrates was Athens lost the war to Sparta. Now, you see, in a small state like Athens, which is hardly 5,000 Republican people, members of the assembly, and rest of our slaves and freemen, these people wanted a scapegoat, a fall guy, and who to catch hold of. So they caught hold of Socrates, saying that you are corrupting the youth, you are influencing them wrongly, you are misguiding our nationals, and therefore we exile you, or you drink the hemlock. Now the students of nobody in the Senate actually believed that this sentence would be carried out. Socrates was a popular fellow. I mean, nobody would really seriously want to kill him. So all his students came and told Socrates that, please, this is a good time for you to escape. Escape from Athens. You don't have to drink the hemlock. But Socrates, the way he was, see the integrity of the man. He said, no, I love my city. And if my city says that I am wrongly influencing the youngsters, then disciples, the hemlock is mine. They cried, they pleaded, they had bribed the guards. Everything was arranged for Socrates, but the man wouldn't go. He wouldn't leave prison. Ultimately, on the morning of his death, he gladly drank the hemlock and he walked into immortality. So Socrates is one man who influences philosophy, Stoic philosophy, tremendously. And Plato was his favorite student. Now, Plato came from a very, very good background. He was from a very wealthy background. And he was a wrestler in his younger days. It is also believed that Plato also visited Egypt for learning the mysteries and the esoteric sciences. Plato also visited the East Asia, Asia Minor, where these things were practiced. Esotericism was available in Asia Minor. And then he went back to Greece and he founded his school. His school was called the Museum. And therefore, this word museum that we use today for artifacts is actually derived from Plato's school, which is called a museum. Plato wrote many books, and Plato actually, in his book, The Apology, which is based on Socrates' death, has immortalized Socrates. See, other than Plato, we really don't have any written literature on Socrates. Now, there are some people, some thinkers who say that Socrates was a fictional figure created by Plato. But again, it's a matter of belief. Believe it if you want. Don't believe if you don't want. Because on Socrates, we have nothing. I mean, there is no independent writer, independent author on Socrates. Plato is the only person who's written on Socrates. So Plato has written many books. And Republic, Apology, this is the Republic. Can you see this book, Republic? Republic is a book, and I would highly recommend that you read this book. This book deals with how states must be governed. See, for the first time, written literature on how the state should be governed. Philosopher king should rule the state. How should the state be categorized? How should people be dealt with? How should punishment be dealt with? Is all written in this book, The Republic. And this book is foundational literature for political science and also for philosophical studies. So I would definitely recommend all of you that please, you may not read it, but at least scan it. Scan the book, Republic. Another book is The Apology, which deals with the death of Plato, death of Socrates. There is something I must say about the book Apology is that there are some people in this world who still believe, there are people today also who believe, that if you read the Apology and if you study the book Apology, there is no other book worth reading in this world. Everything that you need to know about life, about ethics, morality, public life is written in Apology. So again, it's a matter of your interpretation, your takeaway. Apology is available and you can read it, you can scan it, you can just go through it. In a public library, you can have it in your own personal library, should you so desire. So Plato was one person who was a giant of a man, a giant of a philosopher. Plato has contributed to Stoic philosophy like nobody else, and everything that is written down largely has survived to our times. The next person who is again a giant, Plato's disciple, Aristotle. Whatever Aristotle has written has also survived largely to our time. And Aristotle is the person who's influenced Christian thinking. Now, there is a fundamental difference between Plato and Aristotle. Plato says that divinity is to be understood. Now, this is something that I will not go into deep today because I'm dealing with Stoicism. But should an occasion arise that we deal only with Plato and Aristotle, then I will go deeper into what Plato said and what Aristotle said. Plato says that everything is divine and the divinity is coming down and we need to understand the divine. So Aristotle's eyes are towards divinity. I'm sorry, Plato's heart is towards divinity. Plato's eyes are towards divinity. He says that divinity is what is making this world. We are a shadow of the divinity. This is Plato's version. Aristotle, for the first time, and this is very important, folks, he turned the tables of philosophical thinking. He said that we have to test. Could we just Sunda Varda Man, please, could you do that? The host, thank you so much. Aristotle turned the tables and he said we must check everything empirically. So the birds, the bees, the animals, the feelings, everything that is there in the world which can be understood palpably must be measured, must be tested, must be analyzed, must be scrutinized. Folks, this turns philosophy completely. There is Plato who says that we must look at divinity for everything, and there is Aristotle who says that we must look at the world, the way the world is, and understand how the world is created. Aristotle became the father of modern philosophy. About Aristotle, you must know one thing is that Aristotle was, of course, gifted, but he was also the teacher of Alexander the Great. When Greece was being torn apart by internal schisms, King Philip of Macedonia found a very, very easy target in Greece because he had ambitions to conquer the world, of course. I mean, all emperors and kings want land, want territory. And in those days, folks, you must remember, the only way to make money was to conquer lands. There was no stock market. There were no corporate bodies whom we could take over. Today, we have companies like Amazon and companies like Alibaba who are multi-billionaires. These companies have a lot of resources. But in those days, resources were only a couple of sources like land, agriculture, slave, gold, silver, gemstones. This was the only source of wealth. Otherwise, what other source of wealth was there? So therefore, every king, every emperor was interested in expansion. So when Philip found that that Greece is divided by schisms, he walked into Greece and he was welcomed. There was no war. The Hellenistic civilization said, please come, rule us. And that's how Philip entered Greece. Alexander needed education. So Philip appointed Aristotle as the teacher of Alexander. And Aristotle influenced Alexander tremendously. And Alexander took Aristotle's learnings. Ultimately, he was also a king. He was also an emperor. He was ambitious. But when he went, he took the thinking of Aristotle with him. So therefore, he came to Egypt. He went to Asia Minor, Mesopotamia, Persia, came to the banks of the Indus where he fought with Porus. And that is how Hellenistic civilization spread its influence. And that is how India and Greece were able to exchange ideas. Aristotle also has contributed tremendously to medieval Christian thinking. See, when Christianity was formed, and you have to understand this, that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, these three religions which believe in one God, they don't have a theology of their own. Judaism has some. Judaism has its independent theology in the Kabbalah. But Christianity and Islam actually have borrowed their theology from Kabbalah and have also borrowed their theology from Greece. So Christianity, when it was in its early stages, the Christian church wanted foundation to its thinking. And therefore, they turned to Aristotle and they turned to other Stoic philosophers for their thinking. And that is how Aristotle and other Stoic philosophers have a lot of influence on Christian thought. Though Christianity would not attribute their successes or their failures to Hellenistic philosophy, but the fact of the matter is, most of the Christian savants and sages, they have studied Aristotle, they have studied Seneca, they have studied Marcus Aurelius, and that is how they came out with this thinking of simplicity of life, morality, and therefore the Christian church also has a lot to do with simplicity and morality. But again, that is not the subject of our discussion today. We will not deal with the Christian church. We will only deal with Stoicism. So today the Stoics. The other person after Aristotle, who is of a great importance to our understanding, is a person whose name is Antisthenes, founder of the Cynic school, the Cynics, founder of the Cynic school, Cynic. Now, the Cynic school is our derivative of the word cynic is somebody who doesn't believe. Cynic is a person who's always negative. But that's not the correct meaning. The correct, actually, what happened is this: like Antisthenes was a person. There were two schools after Socrates and after the first three philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. From Socrates, two schools arose. One school was a school of metaphysical thought, and the other school was a school of moral law. Again, this is important if you want to make notes. Metaphysical thought means Plato was of metaphysical thought, is that there is divinity and life should translate divinity here. So, you have this concept of the 9 muses, the 9 perfect muses. You have dance, poetry, history, verses, sculpture. These are the 9 muses. Now, this is divinity manifesting itself. Harmony, beauty. These are again muses. See, supposing there is a sculptor and who makes a beautiful statue. What he does is he tries to bring the best that he can. And when you ask him why you're doing this, he will say, I'm trying to bring divinity into stone. So his idea is one of divinity. Christianity, Islam, Judaism also believe bring divinity into your life. So that is how prayers arise. You keep on praying so that you invite the divinity in your life. This is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at the Stoic schools after Socrates is the moral law. How do I live my life? I'm not interested in divinity. I'm not interested in a God sitting beyond the 7 heavens. How do I live my life? Now, this is a fundamental shift in thinking, which for the first time the Greeks brought in. That is the Stoic philosophers. And Antisthenes belonged to the second, that is the school of moral law. Antisthenes met Socrates and became his ardent follower, his ardent disciple. He founded a school of extreme morality. His motto was return to nature. So he opened his school to all next to the temple of Zeus. And what happened is that because that place ran short, they turned to a square, the square of the agile dog. Agile dog, now whatever it meant. The Greek name for this was the Cynosargos. It meant white dog. As a result, he and his disciple were called cynics. And cynics in those times meant dogs. They were unkempt, not shaving, not combing their hair, living very, very simply, very simply. They did not believe much in fashion, in good looks, good food. They believed that simplicity is the only way to live life. So Antisthenes became very popular. He was a great influencer. And one of his most famous disciples was a man called Diogenes. And I want you to note this name. It is said that Diogenes was so simple that he used to live in a barrel, a wine barrel. He had a small plate in which he would eat food and drink, completely stripped nude, and live in a barrel. Alexander visited him. Now, this is an anecdote. We don't know if it's true or not, but it's an anecdote. Alexander visited him, and Alexander asked him, what do you want? And Diogenes said, please step aside, let the sunlight come to me, this is what I want. And Alexander seemed to have laughed. And he said, my goodness, I would want the happiness of this man. Why am I so sad? Why do I want to conquer the world? And Alexander went away laughing, smiling to himself that even people like this inhabit the earth. Now, again, there is a similar story of Alexander with another Indian yogi called Kalyanapolis, Yogi Kalyan. It is said that when Alexander came to India, his generals told him that there are gymnosophists in India who are completely stripped nude. They don't want anything in this life. They live in the forests. So again, Alexander visited one of the yogis. He befriended the yogi, but that's a different story. I will not deal with that today. Maybe before we quit today at 7:26 or 7:25, Ramesh, do remind me to tell you the story of Kalyanapolis about Alexander. But the point is that Alexander walked away, and Diogenes is one of the most famous cynics. And this school eventually died. You see, a school of such strict morality cannot survive. It's difficult. People can't live in strict morality. It is, you cannot be without a family. You cannot be without clothes, without food. So there are mendicants and monks who will carry on, but very difficult. So the school was not popular, and therefore it eventually died. So beyond that, we don't have any other information about Antisthenes. The next person of importance is a person called Aristippus of Cyrene. Aristippus was also a disciple of Socrates. He was strict with his personality, but he had a tendency towards luxury, ease. But his philosophy was heavily misunderstood. See, the luxury that he talks is not the luxury that we understand. See, you folks must understand one thing, that in philosophy, a word like atom has got a different meaning than you and I understand. A word like physics has got a different meaning than you and I understand. A word like mathematics has got a different meaning that you and I understand. Our understanding is of the 21st century, the world we're living in. But the writers of yore had a different meaning when they used these terms. So when they talk about luxury, it has got a different meaning. It doesn't mean luxury the way we understand, where you are completely in a palatial bungalow, eating the choices of food, having the most beautiful women around you. You don't care about life. That's not the meaning of the term luxury. Luxury means to align yourself with least pain. So Aristippus of Cyrene, his school became the Cyrenaics. The spelling is Cyrenaics, Crynaecs. So he said that pain is sharp, pain is painful, it causes pain. I don't like pain, but I must choose the easy way out. Can I have an easier way out? Now, this is not compromise also. Please don't understand. This is a philosophical understanding that between sharp pain and a little ease, can I have luxury? Can I go easy? Can I achieve divinity easy? So therefore, Aristippus found a school and he became popular because of this thinking. But unfortunately this school also did not survive. Again, he did not have disciples who would carry on this legacy. Not much survives. Whatever little that we have is whatever is left over a period of time. So Aristippus of Cyrene of the Cyrenaics school also ended. The most famous philosopher that we know today and which we identify with, and most of us love him the most, is Epicurean philosophy. Epicurus, who believed in ease and luxury. He was born in 340 BC in Samos. He loved experiential philosophy. He was not a dialectic. He was not a dialectic in the sense that he was not a person who would debate about abstract ideas. He was an experiential philosopher. And it is said that the Epicurus, he was so successful that he bought a garden. And in the garden, he and his disciples would live together. Now, the garden, not that you and I understand. Again, please appreciate the garden that he talks of is more like a hostel, is more like a commune, is more like a hospice. People living together, more like a commune, like an ashram. People would live together, they would intermarry, they would have children. They believed in a common philosophy. So we have the school of ancient wisdom, which is a commune. We have other ashrams all over the world, it's a commune. People who want to live there live in a particular philosophical manner. So his philosophy was one of Epicurean, that is a philosophy of enjoying the good things in life. But again, please don't understand the words enjoying the good things of life. That's not what he meant. What he meant was you follow a line of thinking which makes your life easy. So therefore, you have to study Epicurus to understand what he meant by easy. Today, our understanding of easy and our understanding of a good life is different from what they understood. They were already people who were interested in living divinity and or a moral life. Now, you can also live a life of ease, but can you live a moral life? But morality is not easy. Being honest, being in integrity, being disciplined, controlling the beast within, not easy. Therefore, this world is short of morality. Why the school of ancient wisdom? Why am I talking to you? Why are you listening to me? Why do you listen to other philosophers? Why do you listen to other sages? Now, this why that I'm asking you is because this world is short on morality and ethics. Our leaders, our political masters, our masters of the cave. I'm sure most of you know this Plato's allegory of the cave, the masters of the cave. If you don't know, I will share that also with you. Ramesh, remind me other than Alexander. So our masters of the cave, they don't believe in morality and ethics. They are out to exploit you. So we seek morality. We want to imbibe morality, but we want to make morality convenient. Morality can't be convenient. Therefore, these ancient philosophers, when you read them, by transference, you want to imbibe their quality. You want those philosophers to come in you, and that is why we listen and read them. And slowly, micron after micron, we change. And we become slowly disciples on the path. And that is what our endeavor is. All people who are listening to me today have their heart in the right places because you're on the path. And this path is available to anybody who believes that there is a higher purpose. But again, I don't want to digress, folks. I want to come back to Epicurean philosophy. So Epicurean philosophy, the doctrine of pleasure, is not what we understand, but it is to live a life of ease, a life which is consonant with morality. And therefore, the word Epicureanism came into English language, which today is twisted and turned and tweaked to mean easy. Epicurean tastes, high fashion, good food, connoisseur of everything nice. We use the term Epicurean, but that's not Epicurean. Epicurean is high morality, but a life in consonance which is not too painful. There is something that I must share with you about Epicurean philosophy. See, there are three kinds of desires we have. One is natural and essential desires. Write down if you so desire. Natural and essential desires. The other is natural and non-essential desire. And the third is vain desires. Now, you are hungry. You want to eat food. This is natural and essential desire. Without food, you cannot survive. You're thirsty. You want to drink water. Natural and essential desire. But there is a natural and non-essential desire also. You have a yearning for chocolate. It is natural, but it is not essential. You have a yearning for all the dainties and a fancy car. No, yearning for dainties. Fancy car is in big desires. You have a yearning for dainties. It's natural, but not essential. Then there are vain desires. I want to become a leader of my community. People must respect me. People must salute me. I'm a big man. I'm a rich man. These are vain desires. So Epicurus said that please attend to your natural and essential desires. Do not enter the territory of vain desires at all. And do not enter the territory to natural and non-essential desires. We'll deal with Stoic philosophy next time In detail, I'll deal with the subject in detail. Today, philosophers in general. Now, what happened is that by the 1st century AD, Greece had been overtaken by Roman civilization. 3rd century, 2nd century, 1st century BCE were the heydays of the Hellenistic civilization. Greece was at the top. Greece was looked upon by the world as the cradle of civilization. But time marches on. Time and tide wait for no man. And slowly Italia came into the picture. And Roman civilization became prominent. Rome took over Greece. And all the Hellenistic writings, thinking, philosophy, traditions were absorbed by the Romans. In Rome, for the Romans also had their share of Stoic philosophers. And now we will deal with the Roman Stoic philosophers. See, when you talk of philosopher king, this world has not seen philosopher kings. And there shall never be philosopher kings. There will never be a Ram Rajya. Person who talks truth about how governance takes place is Kautilya from India and Niccolo Machiavelli from Italy. These people have written 2 books, that is the Arthashastra and the Prince. And they tell you how governance takes place. Evil governance. Governance is by evil means. So we will never have a philosopher king. But Rome, by an exception, by some bizarre, design of the divine, had 5 emperors who were philosopher kings. Nerva, 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 Hadrian, Trajan, Ammoninus Pius, and lastly, the darling of all, Marcus Aurelius. Today we will deal with the 3 Roman philosophers, one being Epictetus, other being Seneca, and third being Marcus Aurelius. Epictetus was the slave of the secretary of Nero. Now we all know about Nero, the man who played the harp, the violin or the harp, while Rome burnt. He was least bothered. His secretary had a slave called Epictetus. Epictetus was a young boy who had become a slave, and he had a ring around his neck, and he had chains which were attached to his ankles. And that is said that for a very small offense, he was so beaten up by his master that he became lame for life. But he was a very, very intelligent man, Epictetus. And he has given this very simple philosophy which all of you can easily imbibe. What is in your control and what is not in your control? What is in your control? Your emotions, your thoughts, your attitude, your conduct, your words is in your control. What is not in your control? Your looks, your genetics, the position that you hold in society, your wealth, your power, not in your control. So he said, don't be miserable about what is not in your control, only manage what is in your control. Epictetus became so famous that the wealthy Romans, they used to come and consult him. And then his secretary was persuaded to release him because he was a very eminent man. People used to come, always maintaining calm, never being disturbed. He was freed, and it is said that he went to the outskirts of Rome, and there he founded a school where the richest of the rich would send their children for study. He lived for 80 years, after which he left for the afterlife. And it is also said that his disciples wrote down whatever they could, and very little has survived. And there is a book which is written of the surviving writings. Very small book available. You can purchase it if you so desire. Read it in the library if you also have the access. It is what Epictetus' aphorisms on life are. Epictetus is a giant of a thinker. You read Epictetus, he will conquer your heart. His simplicity, his beauty, his morality will touch the chords of your heart. Very, very fine philosopher Epictetus. Unfortunately, with the march of time, we have nothing left. We have very little left of our Epictetus. The next giant we have is the giant Seneca, who was a senator, who was a lawyer, thinker, writer, and the teacher of Nero. I mean, see, imagine. Nero had a teacher like Seneca, but he learned nothing out of it. So much so that Seneca got tired of Nero and he said, I give up on you. So whatever good Nero may have done in his life is probably because of Seneca's influence. Otherwise, Seneca, it is said that there was an intrigue in court to kill Nero, to assassinate him. And Nero found out that Seneca was one of the members. And therefore, he sent his soldiers, his killers to kill Seneca. Seneca ran away from Rome and he ran away somewhere in the interior of the Roman Empire. But the soldiers caught up with him. And it is said before he could be slit, he could be cut off, his throat could be removed. He drank the poison and he killed himself. Now, one of the books of Seneca, which I recommend highly, is the Selected Letters from a Stoic. This is the book of Seneca. There are letters written to a friend by Seneca, in which he expounds his philosophy. And again, his philosophy is a philosophy of morality. How to use your time, how to use your talent, how to use your resources, how to make your life rich. I tell you, these Stoic philosophers, no, we should be sitting at their feet and we should listen to them. We should make them our friends. They're so humble, they're so modest, and they're so easy to understand. And their whole philosophy is around morality and good conduct. So short in our world today. So Seneca, many writings have survived. A lot of writings of Seneca have survived, and you can access Seneca as much as you want. Seneca was a lawyer. He was an extremely good orator. He was a member, or he was an eminent member of the Roman Senate in this time. So he was not an ordinary man, and he spent a lot of time writing. So you can imagine a man with a public life also writing. What kind of a mind the man must have had. And he says that I will still save time to give the most eminent thoughts possible, and therefore those thoughts have passed on to us. So I would invite you to read Seneca and explore him and make him your friend. In fact, all Stoic philosophers deserve your friendship. They deserve our attention because they're such wonderful people. It is just that they were born 2000 years ahead of us. And of course, today also we have philosophers who study Stoicism. There is one particular organization which studies Stoics, and this is a book I got, A Practical Course in Finding Inner Peace, by a professor from Canada, who has prepared a course material on Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and you can read, you can make it your guidebook, your handbook, and you can understand and practice Stoicism. But this is, of course, for people who are interested in Stoicism. I am definitely. I make all these philosophers my friends. The last person, and not the least, is Marcus Aurelius, emperor. Imagine an emperor being a philosopher. He was attending with Germanic tribes. He was attending to war on his northern borders. And whenever he was free, he used to write a diary. His diary starts with gratitude to all. And this diary was not meant for publication. He did not wish to advertise himself. And it is said that he was the last Roman emperor under whom Rome flourished. We have 5 Roman emperors, but he was a philosopher. The others were not philosophers. Nerva, Hadrian, Trajan, Ammoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is, I will give you, Aparna, I will give you the book before we part. It's a professor's name is Keith Seddon. Just write down Keith, Keith Seddon, Seddon. Keith Seddon. Marcus Aurelius wrote this diary for himself. It was not meant for publication. And Marcus Aurelius expresses gratitude to nature. My goodness, what a man! Emperor, he had everything at his feet. He could have lauded in his palace. He could have killed and butchered anybody whom he wanted. Rome was such. Rome was not an easy place to live. Rome was a very volatile place. Your life was not sure. You couldn't be sure of your life. Of course, there were periods of peace and periods of disquiet, like any civilization. But Rome, on the whole, was actually, Roman civilization, by some authors have said, was actually a civilization of gangsters ruling the world. I mean, as good as that. The politics, the corruption, the filth, the garbage of human life you can see in Rome. See, we have movies, there's movies which come from Bollywood, from Hollywood. These are actually, they are depictions of the society that it was. Corrupt, volatile society. And in that society, you had this marvelous man called Marcus Aurelius who lived. So his diary after his death was somehow survived, it passed hands, ultimately it got published. And today his book is available, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Wonderful, super book. You read one aphorism per day, and it will change the way how you should deal with people who are your detractors, your enemies, how you should deal with life, how you should deal with every moment of your life, how you should study, what is divinity holding for you. Every conceivable subject that could have come to that man is written in that diary. Every conceivable thought that comes to you has an answer in that diary. Folks, Marcus Aurelius was one giant of a man. Unfortunately, after him, Rome declined. These 5 lovely emperors, after him, after Marcus Aurelius did not name a successor. Unfortunately, maybe he was killed, maybe he was assassinated by interested parties, but before he could appoint a successor, his son Commodus became the emperor. Commodus did not have the quality of a great emperor. And then, of course, Rome entered the era of dissipation. Slowly, on the northern borders, Germanic tribes, then the Huns, the Mongols, they started attacking, and slowly Roman civilization started crumbling. Christianity had arisen by then. And the last of the emperors, Roman emperors, Constantine became a Christian, and then slowly Christianity overtook Rome, and Rome became a Christian civilization, which is a topic for some other day, some other time. This is where we will conclude. We are at 7:28. I had promised you 2 stories. One is of Kalyanopolis, and the other story, Ramesh, was the story which I had promised was, please remind me. Ramesh, anybody can remind me what was the other story I wanted to share with you? Ramesh is not here. Okay. The story of Kalyanopolis is this, that Alexander was told by his generals that you have gymnosophists, the yogis, who are, there were 2 stories, Ramesh, that I wanted to share. One is the story of Alexander, the other is the story of?
Sorry, just a moment, please. I got an important call coming in 1 minute.
Okay, fair enough. Some other time, no problem, but I'll share the story of Alexander. So Alexander was informed of the yogis, and it is said that he sent his captain of the army to pick up one of these persons and bring him to him. So the army captain went along with a few soldiers, and they told the yogi, the emperor of the world wants to meet you. The yogi says, well, I don't want to meet him. I have no time, I have no desire. So they took out the blade, and it is said that by his powers, he sucked away the prana of the platoon. And they wouldn't be able to remove his sword. They were not able to threaten him. So they went back and they told that this man has got powers by which he sucked away our energy. We could not remove our sword. So then Alexander came, and Alexander said that I wish to befriend you. I wish to know what you do. And Kalyanopolis told Alexander, why are you wasting your time conquering the world? What is there in this world to conquer? You conquer yourself. You know thyself, and the world is at your feet. Alexander was aghast. So the Kalyonopolis threw a hide, an animal hide on the floor. And he said, Alexander, you are in the east. Now put your foot in the east and the west will rise. You put your foot on the west, the east will rise. How are you going to control this world? Why are you wasting your time? Alexander was shocked. But that is the truth. You cannot control the world. So, friend Kalyanopolis, his name was Yogi Kalyan, whom he named Kalyanopolis. Kalyanopolis accompanied Alexander up to Babylon. In Babylon, Alexander died because of overeating, maybe poisoned. There are different stories. And of course, Kalyanopolis also vanishes into history. Alexander dies. His kingdom is divided among his three generals. Egypt goes to the Ptolemy. West goes to one general, I forget his name, and East came to Seleucus, who fought a war against our Chandragupta Maurya, where he lost the war to Chandragupta. Seleucus's daughter became Chandragupta Maurya's queen, and of course, then history marched on and things changed. So this is where we end on the Stoics. Next time, I'll be dealing with the subject of Stoic philosophy. What did the Stoics actually talk of? So this is where we end. Ramesh, do we have? Can we have everybody on screen just to share a couple of thoughts? How did you? What did you carry? What did you like? What did you not like? Can I have your feedback, please? Folks, I want your videos to be on and unmuted so I can have your feedback. Can I have your feedback, please? Everybody, please come on video, please.
So if anybody has any questions, please do.
Everybody has reached nirvana, is it? Everybody. Can I? Yes. Any questions? What did you like? What did you not like? What is it that you wish me to deal with next time? Hi.
Thank you, sir. It was a very illuminating history following all the major Stoics.
Can you be a little louder, please, Ross? I can't hear you.
Sure. Yeah, it was very illuminating history following the storyline of the major Stoics. So for me, that was the biggest learning, is seeing the step by step of the progression of Stoicism with the different major characters.
Very good, Ross. Thank you. And anybody else would like to share? Because next time I'll be dealing with Stoic philosophy. Stoics also understood the world in a particular matter. Atom was not atom the way you understand. Water is not water that you understand. Earth is not the earth that we understand. They had a different conception altogether. And one of the Stoic philosophers says that the world is made of atoms for the first time. And it is true. We have Janki Raman. Jasmine, can you come on screen? Aparna, Kashmira, Prabhakar, can you just come on screen, please?
I want to add only one thing. You said about Pythagoras school that people were not, we are told not to ask any questions. So I want to share an experience in my work situation. Some senior Japanese expert came.
You have to be clearer, sir. I can't hear you. Janki Ramanji, be a little clearer.
Senior expert Japanese came to visit our industry, factory. Can you hear me?
Very faintly.
I think the connection at your end, Jose,
No, the expert who came from Japan. Can you hear me?
yes, you're clear. Jankiramji, you're clear.
He said that you cannot ask any question because you are not in a level at which I am.
See, whatever,
no
you have to
questions,
understand one thing.
He allowed no questions during your visit, during his visit. Because we are not in a level, even in the engineering field, I am telling that some of the experts say you cannot ask any questions because you are not in a level at which I am. So you can imagine Pythagoras or philosophers and what question anybody can ask meaningfully. I really like that portion of training.
Okay,
it was very nice, and of course, other things about morality, ethics is very important.
You have to understand one thing.
You should
is
send
that,
some thoughts to PMO.
is that, you see, the human mind has this tendency to jump around. We are, what is the human mind? There's a very beautiful definition. They say the human mind is like a monkey. Oh, no. It's not a monkey. It's a drunk monkey. No. It's not a drunk monkey. It's a monkey which is drunk, bitten by a scorpion. No. It's not a drunk monkey. It's not bitten by a scorpion. It is a monkey who is drunk, bitten by a scorpion, and is being chased by a snake. So this is the human mind's
Title of the book in the
allegorical definition.
Canadian
I
book.
remember one thing that I
Put
want
the
to share is
title
that
in the
the
chat.
allegory of the cave of Plato. But today we are running late. Next time, Ramesh, before we start, I'll be dealing with Stoic philosophy, and this can be made a part of the allegory of the cave. So allegory of the cave is what I will start with. How many people know about the allegory of the cave? Nobody? Okay.
No.
Just give you a little outline is that Plato says that our world that we live in is a cave in which we are being misguided by the masters of the world. Beautiful way how he describes the world. So we'll deal with allegory of the cave next time. Okay, Prabhakar, any questions? Janki Raman?
No, only thing
Mira?
is there is a request to put the title of the book by Kannada professor in the chat. Or can you show it again or tell the author's name? How do we get it or how do we find more about it?
Ramesh, could you repeat the question to me?
I hope you can hear me. The question is, Aparnaji's question says, "Sir, please type in the Canada professor's name and book title."
No. Ramesh, I can't hear your question. Can you just type it down? Can you just type it in the chat?
Could you please take a look at the chat window?
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, the question is there.
Yep, okay. Thank you very much.
Question by Aparna.
Achha. Yeah.
I think it's becoming apparent that your audio reception may not be so good because we're all able to hear many of the others speaking quite clearly.
Okay. No questions or there is a question?
And she just wanted the Canada professor's name and book
Yeah,
title
given the name
typed
of the
out.
book, it's Keith Seddon. Keith, Keith Seddon, Seddon. And the title of the book is Stoic Serenity. Stoic Serenity.
Serenity. Okay.
Yes,
Keith,
wrong question. Yes.
SCDD or SS?
No, I just had a comment about the Epicurean philosophy and how it's very similar to the Dakshinamarga Tantra, where you're also looking at the essentials, but you're not kind of negating the body's needs. You're treating it like a child. And
No, Maitri, you'll have to speak a little louder. I don't know.
I'll just put it in the chat.
Yeah, now it's very clear. You're near the laptop. Yes, now you're clear. Tell me.
Okay, so I was just, it's just a comment. I was just saying it's interesting to see that the Epicurean philosophy is very similar to Dakshinamarga Tantra, where there is the morality, but also you're looking at refining your senses for the purpose of only engaging with essential needs, not the Neo Tantra, not the Western Tantra, not the Black Magic Tantra. The classical Dakshinamarga Tantra is very similar to the Epicurean philosophy. So for me, it was just interesting to hear that.
Okay, just a little comment, not that, yes. See, the point is that thinkers and savants and sages are not the propriety or the property of any one civilization. There have been thinkers and great men born in every civilization. Indians have given different names. The Greeks have given different names. Romans have given different names. Christianity has given different name. Islam has given Sufis. So therefore, across civilizations and across times, the essential message is the same. It can be bottled differently. It is labeled different. Stoic Serenity. Yes, Janki Raman's Stoic Serenity. Yes, that's the title of the book. All right. So, folks, we take leave for today. And I'll join you sometimes, maybe end of April or early May. And we'll take another subject on Stoicism, Stoic philosophy forward. Is that good?
Yeah, thank you, Juzer. Thank you. So that brings us, if people have any more questions, please do ask.
Just want to thank him very much. Thank you very much. It was an alien subject, but you made it very interesting, and I would love to hear more the next time you come. So thank you. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, no, Jasmine, there is something I will just share offline, or just offhand. If you find Stoics interesting, then you must also explore Cathars and Knight Templars. So I am giving you a little teaser that someday I may take a subject on Cathars. How many people have heard about the Cathars? Okay, Ross. Cathars and Knight Templars. Ross, have you heard about Knight Templars? Of course you have. So Cathars and Knight Templars is one subject I would also like to touch upon. Maybe when we deal with Stoic philosophy, I'll touch upon Cathars and Knight Templars. Where they were also masters of the game. They knew how to live life. So Jasmine, explore.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Very much. Very compelling. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank
We part
you.
company
Thank
for
you,
the day. Goodbye.
Thank you, Juzer. So, right. So now that we have finished with the question and answer, the last part of the satsang is the Loka Samasta. So please remember your loved ones. That's a group prayer. So please remember your loved ones or people in your community who need these prayers. What kind of prayers? It could be something to do with their health, their finances, or relationships. That's the main karmic areas that we all have. And also the world at large. So while we send these prayers out, it really does impact, especially when there is group dynamics involved. So please sit straight with your back, neck, and head aligned. Take a nice deep breath. And let go. Observe the silence within, the language of the soul that connects all of us. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu. Thank you, everybody. So same time, same day next week. We'll see you then. God bless.
Thank you, Brother Ramesh.
Retreat,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
So please announce about retreat.
Sorry, retreat.
Thanks
Yes,
for
yes, of
inviting
course.
us, Swati. Can't see you, but thanks for inviting
Thank
us.
you, my dear ji.
Thank you so much for joining us, Yogacharini Maitreyi and Ross, Mr. Ross. Very nice to have you here. Just to make a quick announcement that most people have left, and we'll kind of build this up. In the first week of May, we are having, after a very long break, we are having a weekend retreat at the School of Ancient Wisdom from Saturday to Sunday. I think May 2nd and 3rd, was it, Swati? Yeah, I believe it is May
3rd and 4th, sir.
3rd and 4th, the May 3rd and 4th. We are in the stage of planning it at the moment, but please do spread the message to all the satsangis in the School of Ancient Wisdom. After a very long time, we are having satsang retreat at the School of Ancient Wisdom. So more details in the weeks to come. Thank you and God bless.